Good afternoon. My name is Mary Rose, and I'm a student here at Chaminade and a Catholic Relief Services student ambassador. I will be the MC for today's program. In the name of the Marianist Center of Hawaii, St. Louis School, and Chaminade University, I would like to welcome you to the Mackey Marianist lecture, Catholicism and Prophetic Dialogue. As you may know, this lecture series is named after Father Robert Mackey, founder and first president of Chaminade University. Father Mackey was an important voice in the civic and religious community of Honolulu. He was an unfailing advocate for the poor and the marginalized in Hawaii and in the world. This lecture series was created to continue the influence of his presence. The Mackey lectures are unique events on the campus calendar in that they are one of the few programs jointly sponsored by all three institutions on the Houseless campus, namely the Marianist Center of Hawaii, St. Louis School, and Chaminade University. For that reason, it is with even greater pride that I welcome you this afternoon. I would now like to introduce Chaminade student Vanessa Ignacio to lead us in an opening prayer. Gracious and loving God, you entered this world as a houseless infant. We turn to you today for wisdom. We seek to be open to your guidance as it is expressed through the actions and conversations of those who continually reach out to those without shelter. May we bond together as one to help our houseless brothers and sisters. May the houseless, through their efforts to survive rejection, betrayal, and mistrust, show us the way to welcome and inclusion. We make this prayer through our poor and houseless Savior, Jesus the Christ. Amen. Amen. Thank you, Vanessa. As you know, the format for our Mackey lecture today is a bit different than the usual single lecture style. Instead, we are having a panel presentation on housing the houseless. I would like to take this opportunity to introduce the panelists. Peter Savio, a graduate of St. Louis School, is a real estate broker, developer, and social worker. He has rent-to-own projects planned out along and Maui. Terry Walsh is the president and CEO of Catholic Charities Hawaii. His ties to Hawaii include attending and earning his bachelor's degree in behavioral science from Chaminade University of Honolulu. David and Bernie Reeves are retired teachers from Chaminade College Preparatory School, a Marianist school in West Hills, California. Now they're parishioners at St. Anne's Church in Kaneohe, where they share the homelessness and affordable housing committee. And finally, our moderator for today is Ben Gutierrez, a graduate school of St. Louis. A graduate of St. Louis School is a reporter and weather anchor for Hawaii News Now. He will moderate today's panel, which will discuss faith-motivated responses to the problem of homelessness on Oahu. I will now turn things over to Mr. Gutierrez.
For the introduction, Jenny. Before I completely start, just two minor things. I know that this is again different from our usual format, as Jenny said, of having a single speaker. My job, I think, today will be just to try to coordinate and facilitate a discussion from our four panelists, because they do come from different viewpoints and are able to attack what's going on and to look at the subject from different angles. I also wanted to do a little bit of full disclosure. One, I once bought a property from Peter Savio. And two, I did graduate from St. Louis High School, as it was known then. But Glenn, I'm sorry, today I'm wearing Chaminade colors. So I decided to But thank you all for being here, and we hope that this discussion will serve as something that will spur action, not just talk, but some action, perhaps finding a solution to what we all see in front of us, perhaps even more and more. And that's probably the best jumping off point at this point, because I know this is something that all of us, right, we hear about it all the time. We see more and more of it, or at least it seems to be that way. But each of you have a different perspective, and my apologies for the people on this side, keeping the seats back in my head for most of the rest of the day. And that is, you have a different perspective, and perhaps, Peter, we could start with you on where, you know, how you got involved in this particular issue.
Okay, well, first of all, for me, it's going to be difficult because I'm Italian. Who knows how I'm going to speak holding the mic. Anyway, I approach, or have a slightly different view, I think, than a lot of people. I do not see homelessness as a problem. It's not the problem. It is a symptom of the problem. And that's why we've never been able to solve it. We had homelessness in the 50s, the 60s, the 70s. I'm 67 years old, and all my life we've been trying to solve this issue. And the reality is we keep on treating the symptom rather than the problem. The problem is our high cost of housing. People who rent are always going to be one paycheck away from homelessness. Wages go up, rent goes up. Wages go up, rent goes up. The only way we will break the cycle is to create more affordable housing. The pressure we put on families struggling to earn more money, pay for their kids, deal with the illnesses and all the other financial issues, inevitably will force some of them into divorce, spousal abuse, alcohol, drugs, and a lot of the other problems we see are actually created by this pressure that is created because of our real estate market, the uniqueness of our market. And if we want to solve the problem, the solution is on the homeless side. I personally think we have to declare our city as a humanitarian city, and no one will be allowed to sleep on our streets. Instead, they will be urban campers, and we will designate campgrounds for them. And they are free to go to the campground of their choice. The one that has all the rules, the one that has no rules. The one that has no rules, if they want alcohol and drugs, we should give it to them. We should encourage them to go there. But we should also have all the programs to help them get off of alcoholism, to get off of drugs. But we need to control where they are, take them away from all the problems that their addiction creates, and they're unable to handle. So the problem or the symptom of homelessness, I think the group as a rule, Hawaii's doing a pretty good job of getting them off the street and trying to house them, but it's never going to go away unless we change how we approach it.
All right, we'll get back to some of the issues that you talked about there. Yeah, Terry, your take.
Well, that's a tough act to follow. So what was the question again?
So just basically, how did you get involved, and what's your overall view, perhaps, of what's happening?
Well, how I got involved is by working with Catholic Charities and my background of helping the homeless. My first job, actually, after graduating from Chaminade, was working with runaway youth at Halekipa. And they used to have a home in Manila. So working with those kids when I was 22, 23 years old, really opened my eyes to a whole other segment of the population that I wasn't familiar with. And I think for the last 20 years, I've really been focused on helping people who either through having refugee status or being homeless somehow find themselves without a home. And I don't disagree with anything that Peter said about it's a symptom of a deeper problem. So my philosophy is that it takes a community to address this problem, and it's not just up to the nonprofit agencies, it's not just up to the churches and the parish, people in the parish, it's not up to just the developers, the media, or even the government. It really is going to take all of us to come together to address the problem. And I think Hawaii is, the reason why it's such a big problem in Hawaii is the perfect storm of the most expensive place to live in the country, along with the best weather in the country. So it's much easier to be homeless, obviously, in Hawaii than it is where I'm from, Michigan. Doesn't mean that it's easy to be homeless anywhere, but people don't have to worry about freezing to death like they do in Michigan. So here, because of that attractiveness to be able to camp outside and still be homeless, along with the fact that rents and the cost of living are so high, I think it makes it such a huge problem here, and it has to be addressed on all the myriad of ways that we're going to be addressing here today.
All right, Jerry, thank you very much. And David Bernie, perhaps your perspective on what we're trying to tackle today.
Okay, we're going to take it from the perspective of my first experience with how I got involved with the homeless was we were in Sri Lanka on a vacation, and we're out walking, and the hotel is just very nice, and just outside the hotel were all these houses made of mud, and people with pom-poms, and that was the whole house. And we met this family that were outside, and they said, come in, welcome to our house. And I couldn't go in, but the other teachers that we were with came and went in, and they said it was just such a wonderful experience for them because they were so friendly and so welcoming, and they had nothing, and they were able to give to other people.
That's it. We may hear more from Bernie. My experiences is almost my entire life. I started my association with the Marianists, as we all have, in high school, and I attended St. Joseph's High School in Cleveland. After 2 years, my family suffered total bankruptcy. My father had died, my mother was alone, and we had to move to California. So we became getting homeless. We lived with an uncle and other around, maybe two weeks in one hotel, 2 months in another. When I used to go up to Chaminade High School in Chevy, Brother James Walker would say, hey, maybe we eat breakfast. You know, Brother Adam, you came here and eat breakfast. He would feed me every morning. So that was my first experience with the Marianist family spirit. And to me, the family spirit is a manifestation of what Brother Chaminade was trying to do with all the people that he knew. And so then I actually joined the brothers for 10 years, and I was one of the first occupants of the Kiefer Hall up there on the hill, and looked out over. Can you hear me? She can't hear me. If you can't hear me, count your blessings. So anyhow, this goes on a little bit, but again, it was a question of learning about being a member of the family of Mary, and the family is a big issue there. Then I made my own family after my master's program at Notre Dame. A lot of folks got married at that program, and those were the 70s, 60s, and joined, 70s, she left. Anyhow, ever since then, Bernie and I have worked together as teachers in high school, and we taught at Chaminade College Prep, kind of apart for a combined, I think, 53 years. Just a note on this one thing, this may come up. I had the opportunity to study at the University of Dayton a lot about Father Chaminade and his work, and I was particularly impressed by the writings of Father William Ferree. Now, Brother Dennis informed me, and I had forgotten, that Father Ferree was actually the second president right after Father Mackey here at Chaminade. And when I met him at Dayton, I'm trying to picture this Father Ferree being president here at Chaminade, because I remember going up and talking to Father Ferree after a conference. He came from no place and went to some place, and he gave this conference, and And when I'm afterwards and I talk to him, it's like talking to God. You know? And I'm saying, how does he get president of Chaminade? I guess it worked out. Brother Dennis could tell you that. But he was a very highly respected scholar, and he wrote an introduction to social justice, which was based on the Reverend Environment, which was the encyclical of Pope Leo the 13th, I think it was, in the 1800s. And then, most specifically, on Quadragesimo Anno, which means 40 years later, by Pope Pius XI. And those were the great social encyclicals on which we have based this work of social justice. And I was impressed by this stuff. I thought this was great. And Father Adolf Windisch, another Marianist, wrote a thesis in 1964 called The Marianist Social System. And he talked about concentric circles with brothers and the sisters. The brothers, the daughters of Mary and Mary's brothers and priests were the center of those concentric circles. And then after that were the lay Marianists, one kind or another we have here at and the St. Louis. And then outside that was everybody else. So we were all members in one way or the other of the family of Mary. And our mission, according to Father Chaminade, was simple enough. We were to do whatever it took to imitate Jesus Christ, who was the Son of God, who became the Son of Mary for the salvation of all. We all follow the rules. That is what we're doing. Just a personal kind of experience, and then I'll give up here. Bernie and I, and one of the other teachers at Chaminade, who've known for a long time, visited the Father Chaminade's chapel in Bordeaux, France. It's called the Madeleine. It was formerly a home for unwed mothers, and he took it over from the French government during the time after the French Revolution. And as we approached the Madeleine, now our ship landed in the dock there, headed immediately for the corner of, what was it, Victor Hugo and what's that guy, the Pasteur, okay, Cour or something. Anyhow, we found it, Google Maps, and so here we were in front of the Madeleine. Like, for me, this was like the biggest pilgrimage of my life. And we had, the three of us had a combined 91 years of experience teaching with Marianist brothers and priests. So we heard most of it. And so as we walked in, there was a fellow sitting on the steps. He was begging for food. I did to him what I do to all people that I see on the street. I smiled. I said, God bless you. I said, stick around. Come back out later. Mass is starting. We'll talk to you. In other words, I ignored him. So, and of course, you know, I'm sure he understood what I said because I'm speaking English. This is Paris. This is Bordeaux. Not so. Okay, so we went inside. We went to Mass in French. And we were finally greeted by Marianist Father Bernard Vial, who took us through and showed us the room where the first brothers gave their vows in December 11, 1817. You do your math on that, exactly 200 years ago. And he was very proud to show us this plaque. And then we went up some stairs and saw the room called the Chaminade. Well, after we left, of course, the barrier was gone, and I wondered, I asked myself the same question I asked myself when we do our work here. What would Father Chaminade have done when he founded this town? And I have a feeling it might have gone a little bit like this. Well, Pierre, ça va? Whatever they said. Say, why didn't you come by on Tuesday night? Because just a group of young men, they're organizing a trip to the neighborhood to treat old people who are sick, and they're going to visit them, and they're going to bring them some food, and they're going to pray. Why don't you go along with them? I think that's how Father Chaminade might have helped this gentleman in South Minnesota. Get him involved. That's about my story. All right.
Well, thanks very much, David. David Bernie. One of the things that happens every year in January is something that David Bernie has been part of data, I don't think has come out for 2017, but in 2016, 7,921 homes were counted statewide on a single night in January. That was up 4% from 2015. Of that total, more than half of them were unsheltered. On Oahu, the figure was 4,940 homeless were counted. And the Oahu figure accounts for more than 62% of the state's homeless population. But it's not just here on Oahu, because we also saw increases in 2016 on Hawaii. They saw a 30% increase, 200 to 442. And on the Big Island, there were 1,394 homeless people who were counted on the Big Island. And that was up 12% from the year before. The data showed that the biggest issue is something that Peter brought up, and maybe we'll start at this point, that is affordable housing. Because Mayor Kirk Honolulu, with the state of the city, has spent the bulk of his speech talking about trying to increase affordable housing. And the state already has its initiatives on trying to increase affordable housing. And this is where I think we can dive into the question a lot of people ask, what is affordable? When we have a housing shortage or wages overall, and then we have to try to find more affordable housing. Peter, you've got the mic. Go for it.
This is how I get into trouble.
Okay.
First of all, if the government's involved, it's not working. If they're looking at affordable housing, they're looking to build housing that satisfies the higher 120, 140%. Affordable is really getting down to the 30, 40% of median income. People that are earning 30,000, 20,000, not 150,000. A $400,000, $500,000, $600,000 unit is not affordable housing. It's a joke. And I think our government likes to say they're helping by doing that because that's all they know how to do. The other mistake they're making is they're building rental units. Rental buildings built by the government are nothing more than a method to make landlords wealthier. All of the money flows to the owner of the building. None of the benefit goes to the tenants. All of our government housing, all of our government rental units, every one of those projects should be built or converted to a rent to build equity, rent to create value, so that after 10, 15 years, everyone renting from the government, everyone getting Section 8, everyone getting welfare, will have enough money for a down payment to go out and buy a house. What happens now is we don't have to always spend money for more and more affordable housing. We don't have to spend more money for affordable rentals or government subsidies because we're creating hope and opportunity for these people to become owners and have the pride of ownership, to improve their lives, to get the education they need, to get the jobs they need to succeed. The government has to agree to waive the property tax on these rental units and allow that money to go into their ownership account. The state has to waive the 4% tax that also will go into the account. And what we will actually do is go from a community that is 50% owner-occupied to a community that's 80 or 90% owner-occupied. And for once, we will solve the problem. We will solve the problem, or a lot of the problems with alcoholism, drug abuse, spousal abuse, problems with children not having their parents there because they're working 18 hours a day. All of this is the reality that we are not willing to make a program or operate our housing solution for a program that works in Hawaii. What they do on the mainland doesn't work here necessarily. We have to be bold and we have to be different. Our government is going down the wrong track.
Yeah, so I want to speak a little bit about some of the things that we're currently doing and working on. And a lot of it is governmental contracts that we have to help entice current landlords to rent to people. For example, veterans to rent to them if they have Section 8 housing stipends. And that program has been very successful. Since 2015, we've housed 874 vets out of a total population of 1,000. So it's almost got a 90% success rate. So that program has been very successful. And it speaks to this philosophy that the government is going towards, which I really agree with deeply, and that's a housing first philosophy. That means that the first problem, if you look at the hierarchy of needs that people have, the first problem we have to address is getting them shelter, getting them a roof over their head and meals. And then we'll deal with the issues such as alcoholism, mental health issues, which affect most of the homeless who are living on the streets. But instead of saying you have to be clean and sober before getting housing, we say we want to get you housing first, and then we're going to provide case management services. And this approach has been very successful. It's been very successful on the mainland, and it's been successful here. The difference here, and I agree with what Peter just said, is the cost of living. On the mainland, a $150,000 house in some communities seems expensive. Here, that's unheard of. So there's a big difference here that we have to look at Hawaii as a unique situation and address it in a unique manner. And so we have a lot of different programs at Catholic Charities Hawaii that address from the homeless on the street all the way through providing long-term housing that that person owns. And that's the ultimate goal. And there's lots of different steps in between there. And some of them are temporary shelters, such as the Family Assessment Center that we're running for the governor, and that's at Kaka'ako. And that's run by Catholic Charities Hawaii, and it's only been open since the fall, and it's been extremely successful. So there we temporarily shelter homeless families who are living on the beach or literally not having a home, living under a bridge somewhere, and we give them a clean, safe environment where they can stay for up to 90 days while we provide case management services. And to date, we've had 25 families there, and 6 families have gone into permanent housing, and 4 have been moved to transitional housing. So it's been a very successful program, and the average length of stay has been 73 days, even though they can stay up to 3 months. So that's one example of a very successful program. And the sad thing about these programs is they're just addressing a sliver of the total need that's out there. So we can be very happy and applaud all of these efforts, but it needs to be greater. And as you mentioned, on the front page of the Honolulu Star Advertiser, it talks about Mayor Caldwell's desire to have 80 affordable units go up in Honolulu per year, and it talked about all the barriers to that, how it's going to be difficult, and I think Peter spoke to that as well. So we've got a big challenge in front of us, but we have to address it in all these different ways that we're talking about. Yes,
Yeah, just so there's no confusion, because I realize I'm not talking about what we're doing in terms of the existing homeless, because what we're building them, the programs Catholic Charity has, those are wonderful programs, but they don't solve the problem. And that's what I think I'm concerned about. Because like I say, I'm 67 years old, and I've gone through, I don't know, 5, 6 cycles of homelessness, and we always help the people, but we don't solve the problem. And we need to break this cycle. So I'm not criticizing the programs that are being used. I support them 100%. They're wonderful programs. What people are doing are fantastic. But people have to realize they're not solving the problem. If we can change our focus to recognize what has to be done, I think we can solve this thing permanently. So I just wanted to mention that because I realize I sound like an older little. I'm really a nice guy. I don't know how many of you know what I do, but I do affordable housing to help people become property owners because of my strong belief in that as a problem. I have given away probably between $300 and $400 million of my profits to my buyers because I sell below the market. I am committed to this concept that the problem is we need to create affordable housing. Like I said, he bought one of my units. I don't know how we had a job back then.
No idea.
But the key is, all of you have to get out into the community and do all the things that you can do to help the people that need help now. But we really future. They're the homeless we have to have the solutions for. And you need to talk to your politicians and tell them, hey, we need to solve the problem. I mean, they all say it can't be done, and the reality is it can. We just don't have the commitment to do it.
Dave?
We take a little different tack. Maybe the city or family kind of help us because you don't have the resources to give away how many? Which is what Peter has done is wonderful, but most of us would like to do something for the people that are homeless. And as has been pointed out here, one of the biggest problems, what is affordable? One of the ways to make something affordable is to do it yourself. And this is where we come in as a parish organization. We go out and do it ourselves for people. We don't deal with hundreds of people or even 50 people probably. We do it one person at a time or one project at a time, but something gets done. So the trick is get involved and do something that's burning. I want to bring that message to all of you. Decide before you go, do something. One of the organizations that's best at this, I think, is Habitat for Humanity. Bernie is on their local board. She can tell you.
The story that I told at the beginning from Sri Lanka is how I got involved in Habitat. We went back to the school we were teaching at. We attended an educators conference, and Habitat for Humanity was represented there, and they had global village trips where the students from the high school went out for a week and they built houses for poor people in various countries. So we got involved with that there, and I started it because I'm an instigator, as the members of my committee know. We get things started, and people get involved with it, and they follow up, and the thing continues. Our committee of church works with 4 different organizations. We work with IHS, we work with Habitat for Humanity, we work with Family Promise, and we also work with the HUA Foundation, which helps women coming out of prison. And again, that's another area of homelessness that you don't think about. You think, okay, they come out of prison with absolutely nothing. And the people, if they go back to the same situations, they're going to end up in prison again. So it's an organization that tries to break that cycle. So I started off with Habitat. We built 11, we took kids on 6 trips while we were in Saudi, and I worked with adult volunteers for 5 more trips since we retired. I'm also on the board here, and I work with the Family Selection Committee. The Office of Hawaiian Affairs Bulletin had an article, and it was on Facebook this morning or yesterday that I read from Habitat that posted it, about one of the families that we're working with. This is a hidden homelessness. There's a woman, she has 3 children. She's living with her parents in a 2-bedroom apartment. There's 3 kids, and the lady are sleeping in one queen-size bed. I mean, that touches your heart. This is not right. We live in the United States of America. This is what these people live with. So Habitat works with families who can't afford between the 30th and the 60th% of the adjusted minimum income from Honolulu. And it's hard to find people who they're too low or they're too high. So it's really hard. So we try to get people involved. We work with them, we do financial training with them. When they build the house, they come and they have to put 50 hours of sweat equity. Then they come in, they have to work, be on site every single day that the volunteers are building the houses. And we can produce a house between $170 and $200, maybe $30,000 for people. Because at this point it's a no interest loan. It may be harder to continue with a no interest loan because there's just not that much money out there. So, and housing has gone up in the past 5 years that I've been working with them, probably $50,000 to $60,000 a house. So it's been a tremendous change in the past 5 years. For our church, we do Habitat. We go out and maybe twice a year, we go out and help build. So we bring 20 to 30 people. And they have a great time doing it. I have a couple of people here that volunteer. We also bring lunch that day. And again, you interact with the families who house is built. So this is a one-on-one individual meeting with people. We also work with Family Promise. And my first time working with Family Promise, I was scared. We stayed overnight. I'm going, what am I going to do here? What do I react we brought our dog with us, and we walked in with the dog, and the kids just came up, and I miss my dog, I miss my dog. And our dog, luckily, is used to being mauled, so the kids just loved her, and we bring her back every time. She's like a little therapy dog, because these kids just miss it. And I walked in and I looked at these kids, and I said, these kids are my grandchildren. You know, there are people who just have some kind of circumstances that they can't afford a house anymore, they lost it through bankruptcy. The first couple, I will always remember them. They had bought a pool company, and when the recession came and property values dropped, people stopped using pool cleaners. So he lost his business, he lost his house. They were on the streets for a while when Family Promise came in to help them. There was an article on the news, or an interview with him about 3 years later, talking about what Family Promise had done for him. And they had gotten their own house again. So it's a one person at a time bringing this up. The same thing with working with the Women for Co-op. And so I was nervous, I was afraid. I went away to a prison, Women for Prison were going to be hard, they're going to be tough. And they walked in and they're looking at us, and who are they? We're looking at them. And by the end of the day, it's just, we had formed relationships with some of these women, and it's just, it's a one-on-one thing.
Well, I think even if it is a one-on-one thing, I know that you take part in the point-in-time counts, like we mentioned, and many people perhaps have a stereotype of what a homeless person is, and we'll see the homeless camps, like when there was the huge homeless camp up in Honolulu, and then that got broken up, and then we had the homeless camp that was along the Honolulu Canal. Let's talk about some of these people, because you have dealt with them, and all of you really have dealt with them one-on-one, and hearing different stories. Well, we talk about affordable housing and so many different issues. What are perhaps maybe the top one or two things that are their concern when you either are asked or they volunteer the information as to why they are on the street and why they aren't in a home? What do you hear? Dave?
Well, first of all, regrettably, most of us don't have the opportunity to talk directly with these folks about that. There are, as you know, many types of homelessness. I was a hidden homeless person. In other words, I didn't miss any meals, but we had no place to live. We had none of our family possessions. We were displaced from our home. But most of the people that you see on the street, they're not there because they want to be. Some have drug addictions, some have mental disorders. Others lost their job. They may be living in a tent with their family. We don't go to them individually. We can't. We're not equipped to help those people. There are organizations that Bernie has mentioned who are set up to deal with it. That's why we like to funnel our efforts to the organizations that have a track record. We try not to reinvent the wheel. We can't create an organization that's going to help a certain person and go and ask them, well, why are you homeless? But IHS can and does on a regular basis. They are equipped to do this, and so that's why we like to service IHS in some small way. Same with Family Promise, same with the Buon Foundation. So we, as a parish, hook up with, partner with groups that we know have a good track record. And this has been a really productive way of not only feeding the homeless, but helping, again, one at a time to bail out or at least get a little bit higher and higher.
I have had the privilege of talking to a number of homeless. And honestly, it is a privilege. They are your friends, they're your neighbors, they're your children, just having a hard time. And it's interesting because in a lot of cases, when you're talking, they lost a job, a child got sick, the car broke down, they didn't have the money, there was a death or an illness in the family, they couldn't pay the rent, they got kicked out, they got Section 8, they couldn't find Section 8. It's just one explanation after another. But there's one man, and I had a lot of programs to help him when I first started, because I used to sell with no money down, I go the down payment, interest-free, all kinds of programs to help people buy. But I remember there was one gentleman, one of the nicest guys I've met, but he was a drug addict, and been in prison constantly And you sit down and talk to him, and it's like, hey, I came out of high school, I had a dream, I got married, I had my kids, lost my job, and then it was downhill after that. Started to sell drugs because he needed money. He didn't want to do it. He had to do it to support his kids. There was no other way for him. Got arrested, went to prison, came out, couldn't get a job now because he went to prison. So he ended up in this cycle. And so, I tried to help him. And I gave him an opportunity to buy an apartment he was renting. And I would freeze the price for 10 years. So he could buy the unit for the price 10 years from now. All he had to do was clean up his act. And I did that for a number of people. The sad part is, not one of them purchased. Not one of them did. And it's probably one of my greatest failures, but I realized what I was missing was that keeping in touch with them over the 10 years, educating them over the 10 years, giving the guidance and the support. Just what they're talking about now with Housing First, where they have counselors and they work with the people and everything else. That's what has to happen. Homeless people are just people that need help. Some of them have mental illnesses. I'll be honest, I think I had mental illness too when I was homeless on the street. Having people treat me like less than human. And I will admit, homeless people are scary. I own a number of properties where we have homeless people that camp out, and my tenants are scared to death of them. And in some cases for good reason, because they do have mental and emotional issues. But again, they're people down on their luck, and they need help. And the second one, I think Catholic Charities probably does the best job in terms of helping people try to get on track and stay on track, and that's got to be very much a part of any way to solve the people that are presently homeless. But we cannot lose sight that that's the symptom, and we have to solve the problem. Because if we don't solve the problem, my son and grandson will be back here in 100 years talking about what are we going to do with the homeless.
Thank you. Yeah, thanks for the shout out at the charities. I do feel like, I didn't pay to say that, but I do feel like we're one of the best kept secrets, the Catholic Charities Hawaii. And it's really thanks to our staff who make it possible, because I found that with our staff, whether it's Sister Aurora, who's here today, who works with immigrants, Tina, who is our VP of Mission Identity, and Dave Chaminade, who's our board chair. We have quite a wide reach in all the neighbor islands as well. And the neighbor islands, this is, as you know, this is just as big as a problem. You read the numbers. Proportionately, it may be bigger or smaller, but it's a problem. When I've gone around to the neighbor islands and met with the mayors and the city council people, that's the main things they say. What are the biggest issues? It's homelessness, affordable housing, and drug addiction in some cases. So it needs to be addressed. And I would say, to answer your question about what are some of the biggest things that we hear, I think it's kind of into two camps, if we could overgeneralize for a moment. One being the folks that we've been talking about of living paycheck to paycheck. And those are the families that oftentimes are the ghost homeless, or the hidden homeless, that people probably don't even know they're homeless. Sometimes they could even hang out at a library or a coffee shop and dress and present as a citizen who has a job and everything because they don't want to get kicked out. And then there's the other people who we know they're homeless when we first meet them, and those are the chronically homeless. And with those, oftentimes, as has been discussed, addiction and alcoholism and mental illness, one or all of those things is often the case, much more than 50%. And what we do is to provide that long-term case management services. So it's a really wraparound approach where we work with not only the individual who's suffering homelessness, but for example, in the vet program that I mentioned, we work with the landlord as well. So we tell the landlords, if you're having a problem, please don't give up on the person. If they relapse and they're drinking again, please don't kick them out the first time. Call us. Let's see what we can do to help the person. So really what I would say if I had to summarize when I talk to the homeless people, is sometimes they've given up hope. And that's where Catholic Charities Hawaii is. We try to inject them with hope and say, don't give up, we believe in you, we believe in second chances, and we see the reflection of God in your eyes.
Very
I agree with both of you guys, that when we did the time survey, a lot of times people will not respond. So I think when they say that this is the number of homeless on Oahu for 2016, I know on the Kaneohe side and the Windward side, it wasn't organized very well, and very few people went out, and very few people were counted. The 2 times that we've done it, when we go out to meet people, we have a lot of times they will not talk to you. We've had one woman say, I won't answer, they're gonna take me and lock me up again, I don't wanna do that, you know, and then there's young kids, 16 years old, who've been living on the street for 2 years, and they won't give you the name because I guess they don't want to come home, they're afraid to go home. So that's a whole other area of people that are not counted that we need to help.
Yeah, because there are cases, for example, when you talk about, Terry, people who present themselves as working people. In many cases, I know that they may be very well working. They will have a job. They just don't have enough resources and enough salary from that job to actually afford a home. But they are working as best they can. In fact, we had one story that we did. Jim Mendoza did this at